Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back into the Buster Show. Today, we have a panel. And on today's panel, we have Ash, who runs social, digital, and a million other things for The Score. Quinn, who founded Best Celebrations. And Mo, who runs at RTNBA across social. My friends, how are you guys doing?
Life is
good.
good. Yeah, life is good.
Life is good. No complaints.
I wanted to start this off. Obviously, we're recording this, just for timing purposes. We're recording this in October of 2020 to give people context on whether they're listening to this after the pandemic. Somebody could be listening. Somebody's listening to this 5 years from now, and we were just talking about before we came on whether things would ever be the same. Somebody who's listening to this right now knows all of those answers. What questions would you guys ask that person who's listening right now?
Man.
Good question.
Yeah, it's a good question. Well, first of all, it's like this is a very special group of people. I mean, I think I've grown up with you, Ash, like pretty much. Pretty much like since I was like 13 or something like that. But what questions I would ask is just like, first of all, is like how much things have changed. If they're watching it 5 years later from now, how much like things have changed in the social world. Like I'm curious, like, because it's always like a new, like we don't know what's going on every day. I mean, we're just constantly adapting. So
Yeah.
I'm curious if like they were in social 5 years before, like how much has changed, and like what we're talking about now today, whatever it is, if it's still relevant. So yeah, I guess that's what I would say.
I think for me, like I would ask them how much time did they spend on social 5 years ago, so like now, compared to how much time they're spending 5 years from now. Because I feel like with regards to like the digital world and like gaming and being on social media and just being online in general, for me, like I'm a little older than you guys, so like I was at a point where the internet wasn't really a big deal when I was, oh shoot, sorry, I don't know.
Popular man.
It's legit my boss calling. Hold on one sec. I'm gonna finish my thought though.
Mo, you want to take the reins for a sec?
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, I wonder how much more people are going to be on their phones and kind of like backing off what they just said. Like the next 5 years, is social media going to be used a lot more? Are we going to see a lot more platforms? Like the pandemic has affected, I feel like, all of us as far as growth and engagement and whatnot, because a lot of people have been spending a lot more times on their technologies because they're not able to go out and do as much as they can. I feel like the next year or two is going to be very, very telling.
Yeah, I think.
I was gonna say.
Yeah, sorry. To add to that, just basically like what I was thinking or what I was saying is like how much have things changed in terms of how much time people spend online. Like for me personally, what I was saying is like when I was younger, we didn't really spend any time online because we didn't have access to the resources to spend time online. Like internet for me was straight up dial up. Like downloading a picture, no word of a lie, downloading a picture took like 10 minutes. And it was like fuck this, like I don't want to do this for the next 10 minutes.
And all of your gigabytes.
Yeah, and all of it. Or the moment my mom picked up the phone, like internet was a wrap, literally.
Yeah.
Like that was the life I was living.
Like,
so
you're over the Verizon plan,
Yeah, exactly.
Like I don't know.
And then to see my life transform to being online so much, and obviously we do it for our jobs and we do it because of the things that we're passionate about, and I think sports is now online in so many ways, and you see it in the numbers that like in terms of ratings. But I want to know from this person, like how much more time are they spending online 5 years from now? Because I feel like we're spending a lot of time. I want to know how much. Like I feel like it's going to be even more for them.
Right. It's going to be really interesting. Well, for those people who are listening that far out, let us know.
Yeah.
I want to, did you guys all see The Social Dilemma? I think this would be an interesting topic to
Yeah.
start this off on, because obviously we are all the first people who have spent years building businesses on social media and running pages for years on social media. Nobody could have possibly done it for longer than us. Nobody could have done it before us because we've been doing it since the platform started.
Yeah.
And, for as long as they've been big in recent years. You guys, do you guys see any problems with social, or do you think a lot of it is blown out of proportion? I'll preface this with my perspective in terms of data and some of like that stuff. I'm fine with them having my data. I don't have any. You want my 50,000 photos of LeBron James? Take them. Make my experience better on social media.
Yeah.
I don't have anything crazy in my texts. It's like text with you guys.
Yeah.
It's like, but granted, obviously there are, scares in terms of the mental and psychological effects that social media brings, and how it forces us to like compare each other in like a really barbaric fashion, which I hate. And it often sucks a lot of time. It often sucks a lot of energy, can make you feel bad. So I want to open the floor to you guys. What are your thoughts on both that stuff that the documentary highlighted, as well as what you think could be better about social and what's bad? Quinn, you want to start off?
Yeah, I can start off.
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, so personally, I think it's a double-edged sword. I think based off the first question and like the first topic, it being like, where are we going to be 5 years from now? And personally, I see myself going away from my phone more. But a good work week still has like 14 hours of screen time average a day, But I wouldn't be able to do that if, like, for you, Buster, I know you like run a lot, And like we like have our little things. Like if I didn't go mountain bike, if I didn't work out, if I didn't do yoga, like I just think personally, like we don't separate from ourselves from those things, and like social media and like the constant like being stuck into this algorithm of like whether they push you into like LeBron James photos all the time, if they keep pushing that out, like people who can't escape from that and are in their home and just like are constantly getting that and can't like physically put the phone down or be like have anxiety from not being near their phone for 2 hours, I think that's where it gets dangerous. And luckily, like doing this for so long, I found like, okay, if I don't take care of myself first, like social media will kind of eat me apart. And it has, I mean, I've definitely fallen into like the trap of like, 14 hours a day, nonstop checking for notifications. Like that's how I grew, it's like, it's how I grew like 1 million followers in one summer. It's like doing shout out for shout out all day. But I think as we grow as like people and we understand that that's like not what we're meant to be. We're not meant to be like famous or, compare ourselves to these people. It's just like, I feel like as you find your purpose more, you need your phone less and less. And yeah, I guess it's just like a little touch of what I have so much to say about that. I mean, it goes on forever personally. Yeah. Ash or Mo, excited what you guys had to say that.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. I think one thing that you said that's important is growth. And I think my biggest fear with growth is the younger generation essentially tying their life to social as opposed to realizing that their life is separate from social. And growth is something that happens naturally and organically in our lives. It's something that every young person goes through, and everybody that's dealing like going into their 30s, 40s, 50s, you're still growing. It's a matter of what you're connecting to your growth. And I think if people can separate social from their growth as a person, then that's important. My fear is that social has become so ingrained. And then on the flip side, or another point that kind of scares me is how much social can polarize stances and positions that people have on certain topics, because you're being fed the things that you think you care about based off of what you liked or what you've seen.
Yeah.
And you see it right now, especially with politics in the United States. Like, people are, the moment they like something or they engage with it, the social so powerful that it's just feeding you the same stuff over and over again, where that's where you start to actually believe things that aren't necessarily true or that have holes in them, but you become a part of that message all of a sudden. And that's challenging, because then you fail to actually search for the other side or the other perspective. And I wish social did that more, where it's like it shows you both sides of the story, and and then helps you figure out a decision. But it's actually doing the opposite. It just shows you that one side that you cared about for that minute, and then it just keeps pumping it at you. And that's I think challenging for people, because you, even growing up, like, you ask our parents, they watch the news, and that's what the news was doing. But now that engine just becomes so much more powerful with social, that it it's so much faster. Like, that information, and it could be misinformation, is given to you at such a higher rate, that people aren't going to go do their own research to learn. And you would think that with social and the internet, like, we have access to so many resources. If you used it in a way where you did go and do research, then you'd learn a lot about what your position is. But it's scary to think that, like, you get pushed into a rabbit hole that might not necessarily be good.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, for me, growth is like the most important thing. And it's funny because like people always like in their head, they're always like, oh, like, how are your accounts doing? No, it's like, how are you personally doing? Like, growth, personal growth. Like, the first day I met you, Buster, I feel like we've both grown a ton. Quinn, same. Ash, same.
Yeah.
So focusing on growth, both like, being hand to hand. And like when Quinn was saying, like, yo, if I'm on my phone 16 hours a day, how am I going to have personal time for myself and to worry about myself and focus on myself? And then like, I feel like the advantage that we have is like, if we get something negative on in our DMs, we really don't think about it. Like, I feel like we've been doing this for so long, we're kind of like a wall. We're like, okay, like, on to the next. Whereas like that 17-year-old that is on Instagram, if he gets one message, he's gonna be thinking about that for 2 or 3 weeks. So I feel like us being like raised in this digital age, but like doing this for so long and uh, being pretty good at it, I feel like we got that stone wall. And like fake news is huge nowadays, and I feel like we're able to dissect like what's fake and what's real kind of better than like just a normal person.
Yeah.
Definitely. No, it's super interesting. And I want to add one thing to what Ash had said in terms of, whatever is around you, whatever you like is constantly fed to you. I really honestly believe that if we were all put around, like, if our entire friend group was people who thought that the earth was flat, and every piece of content that we watched for years was the earth is flat, you will think the earth is flat. It doesn't matter how strong you are, how many PhDs or how many,
Mm-hmm.
speeches you've given on why the earth isn't. And that's a wormhole that you see people fall into at the, demise of the hand of the internet. And it's really crazy.
And how fast it can be. I mean, you can be searching for a new guitar, just like a very non-extreme example, but you can search for a new guitar, and next thing you know, you have guitar ads, you have like guitar TikToks. It's like, it's fast, and like people like, for me, it's like I take it kind of personally, having like a 13-year-old sister, or and she's like into politics already, So one thing comes about politics, and she watches it for 60 seconds. She's sucked into that and for a while, and then it keeps popping up, and she engages more, and then next thing you know, she's having like political debates with my family. I'm like, whoa, like it's almost like taking away like being a kid from people, which is unfortunate. And luckily, like I feel like when I started, I feel like the algorithm wasn't developed enough to where it was damaging like me, like it was chronological order. Everything was simple. I mean, it was just kids being kids and editing videos to where like now it's like, it can really like grab a hold of people. Like what you were saying, Mo, it's like for the 17-year-old or anyone younger than that. It's just like, I think it can really just, now it's like we're starting to see mental, how it's playing mentally. And
Yeah.
I feel like for me personally, I just got out of there, to where I was like, I'm aware of like, oh, I'm getting fed these ads, after I searched or talked about a guitar. Like that's what, like I'm aware of it and I can notice it. But for those who can't notice that they're just constantly being fed this marketing tool, it's like, that's just where I see it though.
Yeah.
And this super interesting thing when all of us are on our phones, and you don't even notice it when it's happening, but when you're looking at something on your phone, everything else around you just disappears.
Yeah.
Gone. It's literally like you're in virtual reality.
Mm-hmm.
Because until you put the phone down or somebody says something to you to catch your attention, or like you're not there. You're not wherever you are. And that is so ever fascinating to me. Because when people say like virtual reality, I'm like, it's already here, bro. You're not, you're not anywhere else. You like, even on this.
You don't know you're in it.
You don't know. Yeah.
Don't know.
Yeah. I was gonna say, like, given our understanding and how in it we are, and like, our careers are based off of it for so many years, we obviously, like, the level of understanding that we have is very different than the average person. And I think it would kind of be a disservice if we didn't try and take what we've learned and like pass it on, even if it's to like one individual, but like try and like help people get a gauge of that level of understanding to see what we see and like what we go through. I'll use an example. Like my background, I'm Iranian, like my family's Persian. And this year from January 2nd has been an insane year. You have Kobe's passing late January, and then everything kind of went off after that. But from my perspective and for our family, like January 2nd was it when the war with Iran started. And the amount of information, like every time I would go on our page to do sports stuff, the amount of information that I was getting around news and around everything that was going on with that war. And then when the plane got shot down, it was just like, it becomes a burden on people when you're constantly seeing information about something that bothers you and like has like meaning to you. But you can't escape it because that's what you do. You go on your phone. And when you want to try and get away from it, you just have to put your phone aside and not turn on the TV or your computer to get away from it. And we all know that's almost impossible, not only for us, for the average person. So it's about like, to Mo's point, like we have an upper hand in understanding how to sift through that. But even us, it's still difficult for us. So how do we dissect like these experiences that we have and the way that we've dealt with them mentally and emotionally and pass it on to the next generation or to people in general, because they're dealing with the same things that we're dealing with and probably not as good because we've learned how to deal with negativity, with haters, with a lot of garbage that's online, and people don't have that experience. So I think it'll be kind of a disservice if we didn't take what we've learned and what we know and how we've dealt with it emotionally and mentally to pass it on, because I feel like a lot of people are suffering when they constantly look at their phone and there's a lot of negativity going on.
100%. So I think a great question to kind of open the floor for that would be, how do you guys, and I do have fun questions lined up as well. How do you guys deal, or how do you, Mo, you had mentioned that barrier that we all have, when somebody says, yo, this is the dumbest thing ever, you should do this to yourself, you should do that to yourself, I'm gonna block you, I hate you, you're the worst person on the internet. These are messages we get every day. It's not, it's nothing crazy. But kids and the majority of people who are listening don't run brands, it's themselves. They're getting personally attacked by people who know them, or a bully in school or whatever. Um, things like that. How do we give a great way for people to um, not care what other people think when it comes to the internet? And then as well, how do we encourage people? How do we get people to get off their phones and out into the real world? I think if we can help people, just even if it's them getting 5 to 10% better at each of those two things I just listed, it would be the world of a difference. I'll open my top two. Number one is assume everybody on social media is having a really bad day. We all have really bad days, and we all have great days. But just assume that everybody's having a really bad day, and then you just become incredibly empathetic towards everybody else online. And people do things that they probably shouldn't do when they're having a bad day. And then second would be, just to get outside and work out. You'd be really surprised with good cardio and healthy eating and things like that would do just to your overall both nonchalantness and if that's a word, if not, or being able to get off your phone and get out, and you won't even be thinking about anything else. So I want to open it up to you guys. What have been the ways that you found to not care about what people think and to get off and get out?
There was this popular meme. I'm sure you guys have seen it multiple times. It was like a meme of a tweet. It was like someone got bullied on Twitter, and someone was like, "How you getting bullied when you can just unplug your computer or something like that?" And it's like just turn it off. And people were like, "Yeah, it's not that easy. It's not that easy." But I feel like at the beginning, because this was like this has been a meme that's going around for like probably like 5-6 years now. I feel like at first everyone just laughed at it or just thought it was harsh, and they're like, what do you mean just turn it off? But now, taking time away from the technology, I feel like people are starting to understand, like you said, like you go work out or whatever. Not only does it help you like personally and stuff, but creativity wise, you probably come back with new ideas, new memes and stuff. So it's kind of like figure out that something where whether it's a workout, whether like Quinn likes to like go in the woods and stuff, like I can't do that unless I'm like looking for a dog, or like unless I have to, or like playing some basketball, do some trick shots like you do, for the TikTok and whatnot. So just get away from it, and I'm not gonna lie, I feel naked without my phone. I'm not gonna lie, I really do feel naked. Like my hands will be in my pockets and stuff, but
right,
it's okay. Everyone else is feeling like that too.
Quinn, you want to add on to your? I feel like you,
Yeah.
honestly, out of this group, I feel like you do the best job at disconnecting
For sure.
and
I mean,
getting out.
me?
Yes.
Yeah, I think, the first thing I want to address is for people who are like for younger generations, right? They're constantly being told that social media is the only way, right? And it's like they're constantly being told like, oh, and it's true for most cases, especially when they're like living in a minimum wage job, and they have like minimum wage like sucks, right? Like some people are making like $7 an hour, and it's like it's hard, and like being told like, oh, this is how you're gonna make money, this is how you're gonna make money. Your business has to be online. You gotta be an entrepreneur. You gotta be this. Gotta be that. And I think people are constantly being fed that, and so they're like, oh, I gotta like do something about it, and like I gotta be on social media. But for me personally, like if I had like no followers, this is like a situation like if I just like kind of disappeared tomorrow with all my accounts. If I had like 300 followers and nothing to like actually do on social media, like besides work, I probably wouldn't be on it. I'd probably just like delete Instagram and like not even think about it. So being aware that like even if it does like go away tomorrow, you don't need it. So I started to distance myself, and I start with small steps. I just told Buster like even changing my Instagram app icon black, like all black, has made me go on it less. Like I just feel less entitled to like click the colorful icon all the time. And same with like I make like colored organized folders of all my stuff, and then I'll hide Twitter in the blue color organized folder, so I have to like go find it and search for it. I just like making it harder on myself to not be able to click, because like you can just like unconsciously click these things without even knowing it. And next thing you know, you're on Instagram scrolling for an hour, right?
Oh.
And yeah, and so like Mo was saying, I get in the woods a lot. So
Yeah.
it might sound crazy to people, and I like like it's just like, but these are things that like I've gone out and I've like practiced and stuff like that. But like earthing, honestly, like put your phone away and like put your feet on the ground, like on the soil, like take your socks off. Don't be afraid to do that. Like
Yeah.
barefoot does work. It's crazy how like the earth will heal you if you just put your feet on it and like let it do what it's supposed to do. And honestly, just going back to our roots of like why we're here, it's like might sound super hippie, but yeah, I think for the most part, I seem like a happy dude, so it's working, right? and and last thing to that, yeah, I don't know. There's just I don't know. Do you guys have any more tools right now that you can think of, or what do you have to say to that?
I think I'm totally with you on like getting outside. I think getting outside in general is important. No matter what you're doing, like just go take a breath of fresh air.
Yeah.
Whether it's like shooting hoops, going for a run, going for a walk, a time where you don't have to like constantly look at your phone. Granted, you'll probably look at your phone a couple times, but like to know that you're outside for like a purpose that has nothing to do with being online is super important, and it's just good for you, like in general. Like getting out in the woods, Quinn, like this summer, it's kind of been a blessing with COVID because I haven't had to travel so much for work. So it's enabled me to go to the cottage country like 4 times. I went camping once. Like I was just out there, and these are things that I love to do, but I just didn't get a chance to do because of work.
Yeah.
And now I had the ability because the world like shut down for 6 months. So
Yeah.
they want me to shut down for 6 months and just go chill and like be out on the water. I think being outside is like super important to me, whether I'm biking or shooting hoops or doing anything or even just going for a walk and just getting like some fresh air. And I think another way to disconnect, and people talk about this all the time, and I really, really suck at it, and I want to get better, is like not looking at your phone when you wake up. Taking a like letting yourself come alive for an hour as yourself and not with any like digital implications or things that can affect you in that hour. Yeah, Buster, go ahead.
Oh, what a really fun way that I've found to be able to do that. Let your phone die at night.
Yeah.
Wake up and it's dead. You have no inclination to get out of bed and plug it in. None. And it ends up being like 30 minutes, 45 minutes before you actually get yourself to plug it in.
Yeah.
Or what I do is instead of getting on my phone right away, I've replaced like bad habits with good habits. So my first thing I wanted to do in the morning was to go scroll Instagram for 30 minutes and see what I missed. But now I just go to Apple Books and I read for 30 minutes. I'm like, okay. Like if you're so driven, like I'm driven to my phone, I'm driven to my phone. So if I can make it easier to read and like actually learn and feel like I grew, like, oh, like I did something good this morning. So I'll read for 30 minutes on my phone and I'm scrolling through pages. And to add to that, don't have your notifications and sounds on because you'll start to become like a machine to any like notification thing that pops up because you're reading and then someone's like, oh, they tagged you in this, you're like, oh, I gotta go check Instagram. And then you're in Instagram and then it's just like back in the loop,
Good time.
But then you're just like, then you just totally, yeah.
What Quinn was saying, I saw a TikTok of a poppin' TikTok the other day, like a viral one, and it said like life hack #1, and it was like put your phone on do not disturb mode. Your life will change, and like it had like so many likes and comments, and I'm like, I've been doing this for like at least 5 years now. Yo, like, are you guys the same way? Because I thought that was just normal. Like, my phone's always
I used to get a lot of my friends mad at me because on Do Not Disturb, it goes straight to your voicemail. And they'll be like, this guy, like, what are you in the subway all the time? Like, I'm like, no, like, it's just how my phone, I did it once and I just couldn't never not do it again. Like, it's always on Do Not Disturb.
The best question is when people are like, so do you like they find out you run all these Instagrams, like, So do you like have notifications on?
That is the worst question of all time.
Yeah, of course.
Like, yeah, my phone's just at 99 nonstop.
Yeah.
Blowing up.
Yeah, 99, and the battery is really good. Like it just lasts really long with all those.
Oh
Yeah.
my God.
For anyone listening, I really encourage you, as like much as it might scare you, just get outside. Just like put your phone down. Even like doing like you can see my surfboards in the back. Like
Hey.
I can't be on my phone while I'm surfing for 3 hours. You know, like putting that in perspective of my life, or like if I end the day with that, like it's really powerful. You know, and I think if you can find something like that that you can like hold on to, whether it's running and you have music playing, you know, or a podcast, or mountain biking. Like when I mountain bike, I listen to mountain biking podcasts the whole time. I'm like learning about mountain biking while I'm mountain biking, you know? So I've like found these ways to like kind of like maximize my time for myself and not be distracted. But I think, the phone conversation can go on for a while.
Yeah, and I just wanted to quickly add with music. I found like lull periods where I don't listen to music, and then I listen to music and I'm like, what the fuck? Like, why was there like a day or two that I didn't listen to music? And I get genuinely upset with myself because I do think music has a lot of healing power, and a lot of it helps you like regenerate and rejuvenate in general. So like listen to music as much as you can, whether you're out on those walks or whether you're just chilling at home. Like just turn on some music and do your thing. And if dancing is a release, then dance. Like do whatever helps you like kind of regenerate. And then the other thing is like the one thing that I always stand by, and I see a lot of young people like giving it up, is sleep. Is like don't lose sleep for anything. Like you're gonna have your pockets of time, like whether you're in school and you have those exams coming up or midterms or whatever, or you have a huge project with work that you might sleep for 4 hours for like a couple nights. But in general, your goal should be to get 8 to 9 hours of sleep, because that is a game changer for like mental health and being able to like give your all in whatever you're doing. Just sleep. Just
I think our circadian rhythm is like 9 to 10 is when our body wants to go to sleep. I think like don't quote me on that exactly, but from what I've heard from others, like go to sleep at like 10, and see how you feel in the morning. I mean, honestly, if I go to sleep at midnight, I'm gonna sleep till 8, just because like I know my body wants that. So I sleep till 8, and I mean, take like the wake up at 5 a.m. grind from 1 a.m. to 5 a.m. like really lightly with a grain of salt. Like some nights you'll have to do that. Like if I'm in the mountains, for example, for like my alpinism stuff, like I'm probably gonna go to sleep at midnight and wake up at 3 a.m. for like an alpine start to start the day. Just because like we're on the move all the time. We have to do that to keep going.
That's very unique.
You got to be starting. But like while I'm at home and I'm like, or like I was just telling you guys, I was like testing out my car for the winter. Like I slept till like 9 a.m. in my car, even though I have a bed. My car's actually comfier, but I slept till like 9 a.m. this morning. So yeah, Ash, sleep.
And like, let's talk about it in terms of, you said 5 a.m. Like Kobe was known for waking up at 5 and getting his grind on, right? LeBron's known for that too. One thing they did not pass up on though was sleep while they were doing that. LeBron takes like 18 naps a day, as he should, but because he needs his body to be at peak, and the only way you're gonna make sure it's at peak, it's two things: one is diet and two is sleep. So like you can work out all you want and you can put your body through these like rigorous things, but if you're not sleeping, it's not gonna heal. And one thing that's rigorous is like being on, like working all the time on your phone, looking at the same shit all day. Like you need sleep, you need rest. And there's a reason why LeBron naps like 5 times a day, because it's important.
Yeah, I'm guilty of that no sleep thing. I mean, I did it for like, I pretty much did it for 2 years when I had my 9 to 5, because it was like 12. Like I sleep around midnight. Because you got to watch West Coast games, That's when the Warriors are popping. And then I had work. I got to be at work by 8:30, and it's an hour away. So I wake up at 5:30, work out, then drive to work, and just repeat. And for some reason, I was good for those 2 years. I really didn't have any breakdowns or anything. But this year during the playoffs, I was back at it, but not with the 9 to 5 job. Just doing the social media thing like the whole time. And I got to a point where one night my body just broke down. I couldn't think or anything. I was telling you guys about that in the group chat. It was the scariest thing ever. I was like throwing up nonstop, and I just came to myself. I'm like, chill out for 2 days. Like, don't even look at your phone. Like, I believe I overworked myself. So like, yeah, like don't think that oh my God, don't sleep thing. Like, no, like it's cool to say, but like it's a joke. Like, don't even bother with that. Focus on yourself, because if you're good yourself, like the energy and the work that you put out is gonna be phenomenal type thing.
Yeah, I think it's oftentimes. I think generally speaking, I mean, you reference like LeBron and Kobe, like those two of the greatest basketball players of all time. If you can think about any good habit, push it to the extreme, and you're gonna get extreme results like they did.
Yeah.
You know, and I think most people just don't care enough, and don't do that. But if you do, good things will happen. So I think that is the 5,000 to 10,000% increase that if this topic helped you with, that's a success on our end. Quinn, I wanted to talk about we can't mention the guy by name obviously, but the DMs that we were talking about from the radio guy. Sometimes on social media, we'll all get very weird DMs from people. I wanted to ask you guys what's some of the weirdest like DMs you've gotten in the past, or just interactions you've had with people on social media, whether it be them being very like full of themselves or asking for something absurd, or just not understanding how things worked. Is there anything that you guys can pinpoint? And Quinn, I'm softballing this one to you. If there's another better one.
I'm like trying to really dig deep right now. I'm really trying to. Well, I had one just yesterday. I think it's every day, honestly. Like, I don't think I ever have a dull day, to be honest. But yeah, this guy who's like trying to negotiate ads with me. And I'm like, sorry, man, it's not going to work. It's a little too spammy. And he's like, I've been doing this on radio for 20 years, you know? And he's like, kept mentioning his radio. And I was just like, this has nothing to do with the ad. It's like, I don't really mind that you're on radio. Just like, don't give me that ad. And he's like, well, he's like, well, being on radio for 20 years, I know a thing or two about ads. I'm like, okay, no. But no, I think there's a lot of weird, yeah.
Oh my God. And that guy too, he was just pounding it home. Like, I've been on the radio for 20 years. You know nothing about what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Man. I don't know. What do you guys have?
I think everybody like knows best when they reach out to you. Like you don't have the answers, they have the answers.
Mm-hmm.
Which is fine. Like my motto has always been like, give the people what they want. Like you built a fan base, the fans are there for a reason, you give them what they want. Like what, earlier we were talking about how do you deal with like negativity, and like how do you go through like the haters and stuff like that. Buster, I see you do it all the time. You respond with like something nice that isn't, you never rebuttal in a negative way, which is great, because that's how you deal with it mentally. It's a personal endeavor that you have, and I think ultimately dealing with anything negatively just leads to more negativity. So that's just the way it is. So it's good to see that, like, reacting to things in a positive way and just saying no, but nicely. And I like, some of my favorite DMs are like, hey, like, I'm a new page. Can you just give us a shout out? That would mean the world. And it's like, no, I understand that, but like, you have 100 followers, and forget the followers. You have one piece of content that like, that's the content that you're asking us to repost, and there's nothing I could do with this piece of content in order to shout you out. You know what I'm saying? Like, let's say if Mo hit me up and he was like, I have this cool video sitting courtside and like James Harden did like a step back. How do you feel about posting that? Like, if you look at our page, then you'll know that makes sense for us to post. So of course I'm going to tag you and credit you and shout you out for sending that. But like, you having a picture of a score, which we already have, for example, doesn't add any value. Or I like recently I started a new show called What Did I Just Watch, and we run it on our Instagram stories. And we have like I have certain haters that like come on into our DMs, but they'll see them nobody's responding to the DM, so they'll go to my personal page and just like rip on me, which is hilarious. And I think one of my favorites was how much do you bench? That's what the guy says. Like, how much do you bench? And I'm like, I didn't respond to how much you bench. I'm like, I hope you're having a blessed day with like the flex emoji. And he's like, you didn't answer my question. And I'm like, I hope you're like having an awesome day. Cause like, what is the value to answer that question? Like, what do you really want to know? You're just trying to make fun of me. But then he got really upset and then blocked me for some reason. And that was it. But like you have these people that will get so angry at things and like come on to your personal or just attack you, and you realize like this is like kind of the name of the game. Like no matter what, there will always be trolls and there will always be people upset. And I think that's like the thing that I find the most like outrageous about social, or just like funny in general, is like how much time people will put into like actually sending a DM to hate on something. That's not like, and listen, if there's a mistake and it's warranted, you'll know when thousands of people start pointing it out.
Mhm.
You'll know you made the mistake. But when it's like a handful of people, you're like, okay, like this is meaningless. You just want to do this for the sake of doing it. So I think like for anybody listening, like don't put your energy into a positive format. And because ultimately for people running pages, they don't really like care,
Mhm.
and they'll probably give you a positive response, or they'll like it, or they'll make fun of themselves. So whatever you do, it's like Eminem in 8 Mile, like that they'll end up just making fun of themselves, and then your joke is gone and it's a wrap, and it's become theirs now.
Yeah, just be
So
love. Just be
yeah,
love.
just give
Like
up.
I think most of us are just like if you respond with a smiley face, the person being super rude, like the guy
Yeah.
telling me he's on his radio show and
Yeah,
like whatever, like we always respond with like, oh, here's a smiley face, or sorry man, let me know if that works for you. Like, and then you just like are super kind and like hope
yeah,
the best for you, and you just like always leave it on a good note. Like you were saying, it's like that affects you so much.
yeah, exactly.
And yeah, it's so funny when you post something and 1,000 people like you're like, oh, messed up, delete,
Yeah,
delete.
yeah.
You're like,
Or you just
the
make
worst
you see the
feeling.
news,
my
you're like,
bad,
ah.
guys. I fucked up, and people eat that up. They're like, oh, don't worry, like you'll get them next time. But like they, that's just how people operate. It's all about getting like attention, and once they get the attention, even if it's you giving them positive attention, they're happy.
Mhm.
They just wanted that.
Yeah, I've had stuff like that too. Obviously, we all have. But something that was like kind of like, I wouldn't say weird, but just different is I had like an NBA star that would DM me, and I don't know if it was him or someone that like controls the account or what. But every time they would DM me, like, and I've never had anything bad with him, like perfect, like great conversations. But like every time, like he would hit me up first, like, hey, like I really don't want to like waste your time, or hey, I don't want to bother you, or like, hey, I'm sorry if you're busy, like every single time. It's like, hey, like, don't worry, like, I got time for you, like, and it's just like kind of cool. He's like every single time, like, hey, like, I don't want to be bothering you. Just let me know if I'm bothering you. Like, hey, like, don't worry if it takes off. Like every single time, like, he's just like stressing about my time, and I'm just like,
Yeah.
okay, cool. Like, I've never had anyone else DM me like that.
Yeah, that's cool.
That's super interesting.
Yeah.
I like that approach a lot. And I think it's super funny too. Like obviously we all know how much faster fake news spreads than real news and all these different things. But I truly believe that being nice to people is more contagious than being mean to people. And just generally, obviously, the right thing. Like if somebody DMs something super negative, I say, I hope you and your family are doing amazing. And I
Yeah.
mean it 100% honestly. I feel no ill will towards anybody, no matter what they say to me, no matter what they do to me, anything. Even people in real life, same thing.
Yeah.
That you can't double down negative on that.
No.
Yeah,
You can't physically do it.
Yeah.
no. I mean, I remember hearing like I attended a lot of my mom's events. My mom was a speaker, and I forgot who talked about it, but I'm sure you guys have heard this too. But like, if you yell at a plant like negative things to it, you're like, you're ugly, you're stupid, blah blah blah. It's like that plant's gonna like die, rather than if you like tell a plant like, oh, it's like you're beautiful, you know, like all these things. It's like it's gonna grow and flourish. It's like your words do have power, and so it's kind of like looking in the mirror too. If you look at yourself and tell yourself, you know, like, oh, like you're the worst, you're unproductive, you're not doing anything, you're not growing. It's like if you look at yourself and tell yourself that every day, or insecurities. Like I used to be insecure about a lot of things, you know, like my nose was too big, and then I just like started telling myself like my nose is awesome, you know, and now I'm like my nose is awesome, you know. So it's just like
simple as that.
Yeah, and if you tell people like I hope your family are well and I hope you're doing awesome, it's like that's just gonna reflect right back onto you on how you feel. So it's kind of like what Ash was saying. It's like everything kind of plays back right into your mental space. Like,
yeah.
But, I like that, bro. Just whatever the heck it is, you know. Yeah. And that's just like raw like optimism at its finest.
Yeah, and it's okay to be sad too. I think I was reading about this thing just in this book that I was reading. It's like over optimism can be like almost dangerous sometimes. It's like because you're just like you never really like get the feel of like what's going on. So like allow yourself to feel too, but like always snap back to like things are always going to be brighter on the other side, and like life is good, like life is awesome. But there's like definitely like it's like a roller coaster sometimes. But like if you take all the good things and like put all your energy into that, then you're gonna have like positive results. You know, like a bad DM is not always fun to get, but yeah, that's just my thought.
Yeah, to add to that, like and this goes back to like social media too, is like you just learn not to dwell on things, especially with like negativity. And for example, with social media, everybody will make a mistake. Everybody here has made a mistake tweeting something out or posting something, right? It's a mistake that like within 5 minutes your fan base notices and starts going in on. But it's fine, because if you don't dwell on it and you like learn from that mistake, the process of looking forward is so crucial, because when you learn not to dwell, then you learn to just keep going and like how to build off of whatever mistake you made. That mistake might happen again, but at least you've learned how to deal with it. And when you don't dwell on something, anything negative, then you're not handcuffing yourself. You just keep going. I was talking to a friend, and I'm sure you guys have heard this, but like always ask yourself, how much will this matter 10 minutes from now? How much will this matter 10 days from now? How much will it matter 10 months from now? And then how much will it matter 10 years from now? The answer probably to 10 minutes, to 10 days, to 10 years is not, it won't really matter. You know, unless it's something serious, and those things that are serious typically happen in our personal lives, not online. You know, we're not, you know, it might be different for like A-list celebrities where their lives get exposed, and that's a different thing to talk about in general. But like for us, like things they don't matter like 10 minutes later or like 10 days later. They just don't.
I think for making all those mistakes, we got really good at like just jumping right over stuff when it happens, you know. Like I've like for someone who gets one DM is like, oh, like it's like very hateful like that, with like no social presence, and like we'll have to go through it, but like mass scale. It's like, oh, you post and then you got 1,000 people telling you how horrible you are. But we've gotten over to like jump over that. It's like, oh, it's just real quick. Everyone's gonna forget about it 5 minutes from now.
Yeah.
You know, like that's just kind of how I've processed it. But yeah, the long scheme of things.
And I think a great thing to always keep in perspective too, in terms of anybody who's hating on anybody, for anybody out there who's been, you know, bullied or hated on by somebody else, A, it usually means that that person wants to be you, but B, nobody who has ever hated on anybody is doing more than that person that they hated on. You will not find LeBron hating on a young player. You just won't find it. You know, you won't find a successful entrepreneur hating on a smaller entrepreneur just getting their career started. You won't find Joe Rogan hating on the Buster Show.
They get excited.
Find it.
They get excited. They actually do the flip. Like they're like, damn, like you're doing that. That's amazing. You know. instead of finding any negativity in
It's
it.
important for everybody out there to keep that in perspective when it comes to people, not just like in social and business, settings as well. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, I think super interesting. Super interesting. Well, I want to close this out on talking about some more life hacks. Mo, you mentioned the do not disturb one. I, for one, occasionally I will do not disturb, but I've never thought about it in that way. So good luck calling me and not going to voicemail going forward, guys. But are there any other, little things that you do that you think are pretty, each of you guys, that you think are pretty unique, that other people might be able to benefit from? I'll start it off. I'll give you guys a second to think, with something that I do almost every week. And I post about it on LinkedIn pretty frequently. By the way, I love LinkedIn. Great platform. Super underrated. I have to say that contractually on every podcast. I'm just kidding. But I go and I write down the things that I never regret and the things that I always regret. And I try to set my next week up to limiting, some of the things. So like something I never regret would be eating healthy. Um, I've never regretted a workout, even if like I probably didn't have enough time to do it. I've never regretted missing whatever the heck it was next. Never, not once, no matter what it was. Um, things like that. Spending more time with family, spending more time with friends. Never regretted any of that. Things that I pretty frequently regret, watching, too many YouTube, spending too much time on YouTube, spending, eating a dessert that I probably shouldn't have, a lot of different things along those lines. So just trying to edge more towards the things that I never regret and edging slightly away from the things that I regret every time, because there are those things in all of our lives that we still do, even though we regret it every single time. So just writing them down, and I think that makes you much more conscious of those things. So I try to do it. And when I do it, I usually post it on LinkedIn as well. But I'm curious, to whatever point, I know Quinn, you mentioned, getting your feet on the ground, and you had gotten me to try it when I was back in Connecticut. I tried it. It's a little bit harder to do in a city. Well, if you're in the country or somewhere like that, I tried after Quinn sent me some resources on the matter, and it's interesting. Also, just in terms of like building up like the toughness of your feet, because that gives you advantages even when you are wearing shoes, like on the basketball court or whatever the heck it is. So that's super interesting. But I want to open up the floor to you guys. Maybe Quinn, if you want to start. Any of these like little life hack things that you have, because those are, in my opinion, what makes people and special. And you guys are all obviously very special, not just to me but to others. So wanted to just toss that up for you guys.
Yeah, well, I think how you do anything is how you do everything. That's kind of what my dad taught me. So whether it's like washing the dishes right after you use them, or making your bed first thing in the morning, like those things set you up to win all day, right? And it's like, and like not beating yourself up about when you don't do stuff right. Like my car was so messy. Like I had like old strawberries from like 2 weeks ago, like like molding and stuff. I was like, oh, nasty. That's where the funk was coming from, But like not beating myself up about that. I'm just like, oh, I'll just go clean my car today and like dedicate that myself. Like I have like just like do it and don't beat yourself up about it. I have a lot of things, like as you guys can tell, like it's like mountain biking. I think I mountain bike like 5 times a week. I'm always learning. I don't go to school. I don't go to college. I think Buster, you can vouch for that too.
Yep.
On like just the whole, so I don't go to college, but I don't think that's an excuse to not continue learning, right? Like I still buy courses all the time, but they're very niche, like photography, because I'm a photographer as well. Very niche, mountain rescue, crevasse rescue, ski mountaineering courses, like education, so I can be safer when I'm doing the things I love, and mountain biking and climbing and all those things. But I don't think there's like ever an excuse to not learn. So or reading books, right? It's like, I just started reading like 3 months ago, and I'm like, I've been missing this all along.
This is the best. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm like, what? Like, I'm like I knew these things were all inside, like all this info, but now I have like a deeper understanding of like, you know what I mean? It's like
Yeah.
I can expand that and I can have better conversations and I can, you know, really connect with people more on like the topics they're interested in, like whether it's like indigenous. I didn't know anything about indigenous tribes, but like doing the research so I can have like just like a diverse like playing ground, I guess.
Yeah.
And so like getting all that, but yeah. So I guess my like just like do everything like really consciously. Like everything is pretty much like how you're gonna do or how you're gonna live your life. So from dishes to cleaning to mountain biking. Yeah. Yeah. And delegation has been a good one. That's something I learned this year. I've been running best celebrations since 2013, all the way
Yeah.
back to mine, and I've never trusted someone to run my account with me. And
Right.
for the first time, I brought on this kid named Brennan, and he's been crushing it. And that's been freeing up a lot of my time and being able to like duplicate myself has
Yeah.
like made the world of difference. I don't know how you feel about that, Ash. Like I'm curious what your thoughts are because you're on the other side of it, right? Like you're overseeing a lot of this stuff. And
Yeah.
Mo, you're on Twitter, and I mean, I don't know if you have someone helping you run it too, but I'm just curious on what you guys think about that.
Yeah, I think with regards to delegation, actually I'm managed like TikTok and Instagram. So I have a great team. Any of the graphics that you've seen go up are team. Any of the videos that we do, the edits are team. And then but when it comes to pulling the trigger, like I'm posting that stuff, and then over like evenings and weekends, I have another one of our team members join and helping. And it was hard at first to like let go of the keys of the page, which I'm sure was for you too, because you know the approach and the aesthetic and the general theme and like who your audience is. But it's been very helpful, and I think I'm really learning about delegation more and more, and I understand the value in it, and I think it really helps free up time, and it helps you also like pass on your learnings. And I think a lot of the time when people suffer from giving up things or trying to take control, it's like an ego thing, and I've been really working on like figuring out like my ego and essentially like ignoring it. And I think everybody here on this roundtable has done that in many ways. Like I know, Buster, you've delegated a lot of the stuff that comes with like Hoops Nation, for example.
100%.
Well, I'm not sure if you're still pulling the trigger on everything, but like it seems like you have the free time to like chill and not stress about posting like all the time. And but I do think it ultimately comes down to ego and like in terms of a life hack, I think just reminding yourself that whatever feeling of control you need to have or whoever you think you are is meaningless. Like you just be like positively a good person and not worry about like any clout that comes with what you're doing. Like I've let go of that whole like clout thing. Like clout doesn't matter. People might introduce you as this is the guy who owns like Hoops Nation or Best Celebrations or the Score or Retweet NBA, but like what like that's not how I want to be introduced. That doesn't define me as a person. What defines me is like the things that I'm interested in, my family, my friends, like it's outside of the realm of work because frankly, this can all go tomorrow. Like it could just be taken out of our hands at any point, and that doesn't define us. So I think life hack one is just like reminding yourself that you're not everything that you think you are. Focus on like what, outside of your work and outside of like the things that are happening on your phone. Who are you? It's your friends, it's your family, it's the hobbies that you have, like the things that you do that you're passionate about outside of being on digital. So that I think that one's important. And then two is just feeling like being able to make time for yourself, but also like in terms of working and in terms of being successful, never be afraid to ask questions. Like don't get in your head about reaching out to people. Just reach out to people because 9 times out of 10, there are people like us who will answer and just say, hey, like, thanks for reaching out. And probably guide them in the right direction. That's one thing I learned from a friend of mine who's like in sales. and he was working at LinkedIn, and he always told me, "Is like, you'll never be afraid to ask like questions. Always ask questions, because there's no like, and I'm a firm believer in this. There's no such thing as a stupid question. So just ask, and like if you need some help with something, just ask. And if they say no, who cares? It's all good. At least you know the answer.
Yeah,
But
and
it's
provide
worse
value.
to not ask.
And you never know why they said no either.
Yeah.
Sometimes they just don't. They're either dealing with something themselves that
Yeah.
has nothing to do with the question at all,
Yeah.
or they don't have the mental capacity, regardless of who you are. It never has anything to do with you, and that's why I
Yeah.
think it's super important.
Yeah.
I'll just give one brief anecdote before I set up Mo here. But
Yeah.
I sent Jeff Bezos an email for the
Yeah.
for the podcast, and got a really nice email back from one of his 3,000 assistants. And it was just like, thanks so much for reaching out. We appreciate he appreciates your interest. Obviously, he didn't even see it, but his time is very constrained with Amazon. Da 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 da. And I'm like, all right, cool. That's it. I'm good. I'm good now. Mo, any life hacks or anything of that nature that might be beneficial to people? I mean, obviously, the do not disturb one might be the highlight of this panel, but anything else to add on that front?
Yeah, and on that Bezos email, you never know. 10 years from now, it could
Yeah.
be like you could be looking back at it and like, yo, Jeff, like I hit you up 10 years ago, like while you're talking to him, type thing. So it's always good to try, you know. So delegation, yeah. I've been doing this since 2012. I started on Twitter when I graduated high school, and like 3 years in, I gave someone authority to run one of my accounts. It wasn't RTMBA, it was another one, and like within like 4 months, dude just went crazy. Just did complete opposite of what we agreed on. So my first time ever doing that, I had a nightmare. So I was so scared to try it. But then I started seeing you, Quinn, do it. I started seeing Buster do it. I started seeing like the other good friends of ours that we have do it. So I kind of just like eased into it. And I want to say once the pandemic hit, I felt like I was like, all right, I'm trapped in my room. I got more time to sit on my phone. So I started just like opening up my eyes a little bit more and scouting good talent, and like straight up like Buster gave me some good tips and tricks on how to get someone onboarded, you know, to get a feel of what content they like, what they see if it matches up with our field. We know what does well. Before we post something, we have a really good idea of how it's going to go. So I got someone on the TikToks. He's been doing a great job. Very proud of him. And then recently starting to onboard someone for content. Designing wise, I've always had someone designing for me because I know I can't design for crap. So why not put someone else that's really good for that in charge? But I've also had someone like sending me content. But for Twitter, I would never, I feel like, put someone on the account because it's what's on your mind. It's not, I feel like it's different than Instagram, you know, where you post on Instagram. Like even everything I post on Instagram, I don't post to Twitter. So I feel like you could have just like one horrible take on Twitter and no one will look at you the same ever again, you know, or they'll just think you're a joke or something. So I kind of keep my tweets to, I guess, myself, but Instagram, I've been letting people, or letting my one or two main guys send me content on right now. TikTok, I've been watching it. My guy's doing a really good job. So yeah, delegation has definitely saved me a lot of time. I know NBA playoffs, I was doing like 12 hours a day on the phone. Now I'm down to like 8 hours. That ain't too bad, you know. It feels like way more, but it's cool. And then like one of my life hacks is I listen to podcasts in my car. So I drive a decent amount. So I stick to podcasts, and then when I go work out or I do the, you know, the fitness thing, whatever your fitness thing may be, mine is going to the gym. That's where I leave my music to, because music gets me hyped. I can't listen to a podcast and go say, all right, I'm a bench this or I'm gonna squat this. I just can't. So I save the music for the gym, and then in the car, my friends hate me. They're like, dude, you're like an old man. Like, I don't want to listen to this guy talk about social or like sports. Like, so my car, if you get in it, it's probably gonna be like Paul Bear or like the Buster Show or Joe. You know, it's gonna be like one of those podcasts that I believe helped me grow and remind me that, yo, this guy is 37 years old, successful as hell, multi-millionaire. He's killing the game. But you know what? He's talking about his life. You can relate to that. And, you know, I'm sitting here, I'm a 26-year-old. I don't know where I'm going, you know. It makes you feel better. So
Yeah.
my car drives or podcasts, my working out is music. But if I'm not, like, for instance, when the pandemic hit, I really couldn't go to the gym and work out. And really I couldn't even drive much, but I kind of started mixing in the music with the drive. So, but in a normal day, podcast when I drive, music when I work out.
Amazing.
Just wanted to add something real quick about like the life hack part. I think small wins really matter, and you know we have big picture goals, but if you focus too much on like the big picture and trying to get to that goal, then it becomes really difficult. And just Mo's like point about, you know, listening to someone who's like 37 and like being able to relate at your age is important, because I feel like a lot of young people, like they look at someone who's successful and they're like, I want to get there, and then they don't really focus on the things that like get you there. And the things that get you there are all like momentum builders. Like small wins are so important because it's like a snowball that like allows you to realize like you're actually making progress. And I think that's a major life hack, is like, and this was what Quinn was saying, like when you wake up, a small win is making your bed, you know, like reading for 15 minutes. Like these things just add up and they get you hype naturally, without having to worry, because the big picture is overwhelming as fuck. Like I know I've sworn a couple of times, excuse my language. I don't know if it's safe here, but
You're good.
anyways.
Nobody else sees this except
Yeah.
me before it goes out.
But like it's overwhelming, man. It's overwhelming to be like, I want to get to this point and I want to buy a house and I want to, you know, start a family and do all these things. If you continuously think about it like that, instead, like if you look at, you know, day to day, your small wins and be able to like pat yourself on the back. I would say to people like around your guys' age especially, it's like, imagine where you can be like by the time you're 30, right? If you focus on the wins that you've had now, and then they'll be like, no, but like I feel like I'm still behind. And I look at them, I'm like, how are you still behind? You're only in your mind still behind because you're thinking of the big picture and how overwhelming it is to like get there. And 30 seems like by 30 you're not going to get there, but think about how far you will have come by the time you're 30. And those small wins have all added up and accumulated to that point. So that's what's really like, I always say, like, if I was around like 23, 24 or 21, 20, 19, doing what you guys are doing, and if I had that, I'd be like, man, like I'm on a high right now. These wins are huge, like awesome for me. And I would be really, really stoked about where I would be at 30. And now I've always been stoked about everything that I've been doing because I've learned how to take in those small wins. And I'm excited as fuck about what the next 10 years holds. But I know that that excitement comes from me knowing like day by day, things are slowly progressing. And there's these little wins that snowball into that big picture.
And if I can add to that real quick, just like what you were saying before that as well is like, who are you? Like I just wanted to like really touch on like getting rid of the imposter syndrome for stuff too, right? It's like I can go in the social world and I can be like, all right, I can like boss this up. Like I'm the man at this. Like I could do this. I can help you, right? Like I know that in the social world, like I would say like in the most humble way, like we're some of like the best people doing it out there. Like we're like top like what would you say, like 5% like of people who really understand how it all works. And but when I go into the mountain world where I'm trying to be an alpine guide and I look at all these people who are like been doing this 20 years and you know are really good at climbing mountains, I look at them and I'm like I had to get rid of this like oh I'm 20 years old, like I don't know I don't know how to do that, you know, like the imposter syndrome, like oh I can't ski with you because you're way better, or I can't climb with you because like, and don't be afraid to ask, like don't be afraid to reach out and be like, hey Ash, hey Quinn, hey Buster, hey Mo, like how can I provide value? Or like because like Brennan, when I took him on to delegate, and like help me run Instagram Reels is what it started, and then he went into story posts and this. But I was like, do you want me to pay you or do you want experience, right? And so like we had that talk. And he's like, I want experience. Like I want to like do this for a living. And so I've been like taking him under my wing and teaching him like everything I know, And I really made sure from the start, like don't be afraid to ask questions. And like if there's anything you need, like let me know. Or if like you never feel if you don't feel comfortable, like don't be afraid to reach out, because like if you hold that in, it's like it's just gonna like hold you down. Or you could be learning and you could be asking, or you could like, and if someone says no, it's like just like on to the next, or like ask someone, like if you send 10 DMs, I guarantee that maybe someone's gonna respond if you do it the right way, right? Because like I always taking the note that the first line is what people are gonna see, and it's gonna be like, because they're not gonna see the whole message at first. It's gonna be like, hey, I would love to be a part of, or I really think I could provide value. Like most of the time, people are gonna click on that, but whether they have like 2 million followers, most of the time they can see that. Like for someone with 2.8 million followers, like myself, or Buster with 1 million, or you running the score, RTMBA on Twitter, like blah blah blah. It's like we can see that, and so if you really construct it the right way, you can really. And then on the note of delegation, I learned this this is actually when I reached out to Buster, and I was like, yo, do you have like a contract written up that I could use to put this guy on? And then Buster was like super supportive, and he gave me all the contract stuff, and I like moved it around to fit what needed to be fit. And but what I learned, I was watching this business course by this guy named Chris Picard, and he said, if I have like one life hack for you, it's don't try to do it all, right? Yeah. And I have a bad tendency for that. Like I want to be, like I'm like, oh, designing looks really cool, I should start Photoshop, and I'll like grind Photoshop for like 12 hours a day, until like I learn it. And then I'm like, oh, like I gotta be the editor too. And then I gotta do my taxes, like I try and like put my hand in every bucket. And then that's where I think we get really drained. And that's why delegation is so important, because don't try and do it all. Like make time for yourself instead of designing for those 4 hours when you could have, the college guy do it who wants experience. And so, that's my thought on that.
That's true.
100%. I have one quick story before we close this out. To Quinn's point, doing things where you're not the best at is super, super important. I thought I was in decent physical shape or whatever until I tried doing an ocean swim in California. I'm not the best swimmer. I can swim. Yeah. I will not drown. I will be fine. But I didn't have like the motions down. I wasn't breathing properly at the start. And the first day that I went out, my buddy was like, his name's Adam, but we call him Face. He was like, do you want to come do this? It's like a long distance ocean swim. And I was like, you know what? It'd be a great challenge. I didn't realize how much of a challenge it would be, but I would have done it regardless. I get out there. I'm like dying immediately. There are these big swells, which is what waves are before they become waves and break. Huge swells, swimming in the middle of them. I'm like popping out to get water, to like get air, and the water, like the swell slams over my face, and I end up with a mouthful of salt water every time, over and over and over again. I'm dying. I make it like 1 mile, which took an hour. And I get out, and I was just, oh my God, that was so hard. And these 2 old ladies, they walk out of the water, and they're like, we just finished 10 miles.
Oh my God.
And they're in their 70s. And I'm like,
what?
If I ever tell anybody that I'm anything ever again, slap me across the face, because there are 70-year-old women doing 10x what I'm doing. And that, I feel like, was a great, I think, an applicable lesson to anything that we all take,
And do things that scare you, Like,
2%.
it's like, I remember this mountain guide, Janelle Smiley, while I was in Jackson. I was like, so like, how do you like get your mind ready? Because you're like, you have really high exposure and the risks are super high. And she's like, I just do things that scare me all the time. Whether it's like leaving the door unlocked while I go to the bathroom, like it's gonna be more embarrassing for the person walking in, So yeah, it's great. Like take it like with a grain, like not trying to do everything, but like do everything that you want to love, that you love, but not like the stuff that weighs you down, like taxes. Like I hate taxes.
Yeah.
You know, like, because then you restrict your creative freedom, right? But that's a good story. That's funny. That happened to my brother too, though. I took him on
Really?
an 18-mile hike, and there's like kids walking up and like old moms like talking about their kids in school. My brother's like, "What the fuck, man?" He's like,
Right.
"You
And
make
they
me
always have like the biggest smile on your face while you're
Yeah.
like dead. And it's really all about just how you look at it. And I think
Yeah.
thinking positively about, you know, things while you're working out as well gives you a lot of energy.
Yeah.
But my friends, I love you all very much. I'm gonna, for anybody listening, I'm gonna include all of their socials in the description so you can find them that way. My guys, I think like all good friends, or like all good friends do, they motivate each other, and you guys definitely motivate me. So I appreciate you guys coming on and doing this.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks
Thank you for having us.
Thank you guys. Thank you so much.
And the same goes for you. Love you, brother.
Yeah, man.
Boom. All right. Peace out, everybody. See you on the next one.